So I've got people very close to me that I feel would benefit from mindfulness practice. And I understand that I have to love myself before I can truly love and care for others. But what if that takes a bit too long? You know? Because, I feel it's going to take a long time for me to have a deep practice in myself and to love myself as much as I should do. But I've got people who I feel need my help. And how can I introduce this kind of practice that I think would help them without sounding preachy, and sometimes the language of mindfulness practice to people outside of it can seem a bit flowery and a bit meaningless, unfortunately, but it isn't, of course. So I find it difficult to communicate this and to introduce it. And also at the moment, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in England, like, mindfulness is being kind of peddled, and it's being sold, and it's being commercialized. So when I mention mindfulness, it's kind of like, oh, this fad, which of course is incorrect.
Okay, so thank you, brother, for your question. So, we're sharing a little bit about true love. And Thai, when he teaches on true love, he talks about it having 4 parts. So there's loving kindness, kindness towards ourselves, kindness towards others. There's compassion, which is not only feeling the suffering of others, but also being able to help to transform that suffering. And there's joy, being able to experience the joy in ourselves, the joy of others, and also inclusivity, being able to include everything, not just those things that we like, but also the difficulties, the suffering, so we can see the whole and be mindful of the whole situation as we experience it, and not to just cut off those parts that we don't like. Sometimes it's called equanimity, but we here in Plum Village we call more inclusiveness. We include everything. In my own experience, I see that change is always happening. And it's often just my wrong perception that there's no change. It's because I hold on to a perception about the other person, or a perception about myself, that I feel like nothing is changing. But when I look deeply, I look a little bit more carefully, I let go of that perception, then I can see that actually things are always changing, that there are many causes and conditions for what is happening right now and how things develop. So Thai often says, instead of complaining about impermanence, we should say, "Vive l'impermanence!" Long live impermanence. Because impermanence is what makes the flower bloom in the spring. It makes it possible for freshness, for joy, for happiness to be possible, even when we are in the midst of despair and anger and fear. So I practice to look at my brothers like that, because I'm very close with my brothers. We live together, and when I look at them, I try to be more aware when I'm caught in a perception about them, because that perception can often color my view of them. I don't actually see their impermanence, but I just see this unchanging aspect manifesting again and again and again. So I try to recognize that when I get caught in that perception, and then every time when I do that, I see that there are aspects that are changing. Maybe that one quality that I want I want to see change, there's some kind of regularity to it. It's coming up again and again. But when I look, and maybe that's the most difficult thing for them to transform. So if I only focus on that one quality, I feel like there's no change, that there's no transformation happening. But instead I try to look at all the other things, to see the vast nature of each person, including myself. Yeah, when I find myself focusing only on one quality and then getting upset at myself because I cannot transform that quality, I try to practice like Thai invites us to do, which is to sit down and write all the conditions for happiness that I have right here and right now. Like I have 2 legs and I can walk. I have eyes that can see the blue sky, the flowers, the birds, all the colors, the faces of people around me. I can breathe in and out without the aid of a machine. I'm still alive. So there are many conditions for happiness that are already there. I don't want to get obsessed about one condition for happiness that is not yet there. I can also see there are some conditions that are not yet there too. But usually when I reflect on it, I see that the conditions for happiness are quite a bit more than the conditions for suffering. And so when I see that in myself, then I can also see that in the other person. I can try to focus on the good qualities. We have a sutra that we call the 5 ways of putting an end to anger. One of the disciples of the Buddha, one very deep practitioners, student of the Buddha, Shariputra, he gave a Dhamma talk on how to, when someone his bodily actions are not kind, but in whose heart has something that could be called kindness, we try to focus not on their bodily actions, but on that kindness in their heart. And even when someone whose bodily actions are kind or are not kind, whose words are not kind, but in whose heart we can say there's nothing we can see to be kindness, we can touch our deep compassion. I know that a person in that situation has an immense amount of suffering. So we can come back to ourselves and come back to our practice and be able to help to be there for that person. To be a kind of, like I shared before, a kind of guiding light. And that might take a long time. And like my sister very skillfully shared, we need a sangha. My mom and my dad, they are not. They like some things about Plum Village and the teachings of Buddhism, but what they really experience is they come here and they see the sangha when they come. They come here because I'm their son first, but then what they see is a sangha. They see the brothers and sisters who are joyful, who really are interested in what they're doing, who take care of them, who are kind. Yeah, so that doesn't have to do with the language of mindfulness. The brothers and sisters don't use the language of mindfulness or this, and they're living, and we're living that life. So it's not just a fad, right? This is our life. We commit to living this way. So somehow that breaks through all of that thinking that there's just it's just something, another faction of some kind of psychology, right? Or a living person, a breathing person in front of you can help to do that. better than maybe you can. So when you have a sangha, when you have around you practitioners that are joyful like that, you just invite them and have a dinner together. You don't talk about mindfulness. Just have a dinner. Everyone is happy to come when you invite them for a dinner. And if you have someone there by your side like that, maybe they cannot receive it from you because they know already that is what you're doing. But this new person, they start to ask questions. They want to get to know them. It's natural. And so in that way, they discover more about that person. And they don't have to say anything about mindfulness. But their joyfulness, their presence, that will be received. And they'll start to think, wow, that's a very nice person. It's a very lovely friend that you have there. And slowly, there's a door that opens. So we say there are many, many doors to the Dhamma. And sometimes there's one of those doors is locked shut. And we have the habit of, we just keep walking into it, expecting it to open and banging our head against it again. And we don't understand why we cannot go in. But we don't see that there are 80,000 other doors around us, right? So if that door in that moment it's not open, then we can try another door. So if mindful breathing is not working in that moment, it's okay, we can come back to it later. But having a true friend, a true spiritual friend there, just present, listening, joyful, happy, that can be the door. And then later on, the mindful breathing will still be there. But when that door is ready to open. So it's a way, I find that's a skillful way to be able to share the practice, just to see how many doors are. And when we're with a sangha, it's easier to see the doors. As a monk living in the monastic quarters, when I came to Plum Village, my view of the practice I see now is quite narrow. 4 foundations of mindfulness, mindful breathing, nirvana, voila, there you go. What is the Sangha for? I just need to practice those things, right? So I just need a situation so I can practice those things. But what I learned from Thai is the importance of the brotherhood and sisterhood. And that's not a theory, that's only something we can live. And everyone is looking for brotherhood and sisterhood. True brotherhood and sisterhood in the world, true humanité, like humaneness. So being in a sangha makes it much easier. We don't need to talk about anything. We just be together. And that happiness, that joy is transmitted. So maybe you can try another door skillfully, and I think you'll have success. Okay, good luck.
Thank you, brother. Would you like to come for dinner?